Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hey guys, and welcome to Mixer Review. In this show, what we do is we pick one mixer and we mix up a bunch of his recipes or her recipes and then talk about it in the show in more detail, and we also speak about things that we might want to change, just to fit our personal preferences a little closer. So for today's show, we decided to mix up Krucial. Crucial's got a ton of recipes out there. Does anybody know what Crucial's real name is?
Barrett Myers.
Say again?
Barrett Myers, as far as I
Barrett
know.
Myers. Okay, cool. Well, Barrett. So I decided to mix up two of his recipes. I'm going to kick off with Serially Easy Pebbles. Now, this is a great recipe. This recipe is just 3 ingredients, so super low investment for mixing it up. But we're talking about 2% creamy milky undertone, PG, 4% Flavor West fruity flakes, and 1% sweetener. Okay. I didn't do 1% sweetener. I did 0.3% super sweet, okay, which I think is a good enough sub there. But the description of the recipe goes, the description is in the name, and it's a delicious representation of the profile. I threw this together for a friend of mine, and he loved it. So I decided I needed to share it with the world. So let me know what you guys think. Mix it up, enjoy it, rate it, and comment. Okay. So it's just actually what we have here is we've got 2 ingredients. Okay. We've got just creamy milky undertone and fruity flakes. Locally, we don't have fruit pebbles, but we've got Fruit Loops. Okay. So I'm not sure if everybody is familiar with them, but I'm sure they're both pretty similar. It's like a fruity, sugary cereal with the crunch in it, okay? Of course, the cereal craze is now long gone. I think that was about 2 years ago. But every now and then, hey, if you feel like, like a little bit of nostalgia, it's something cool to look at. Okay, so this recipe nails the profile 100%. Of course, testing it in a flavor Atty. I'm testing it in a flavor Atty, and the sugary fruity flakes, I mean, it is quite sugary, all right? But I'm using a 22 millimeter flavor Atty, actually a Hadley, and it's quite sugary. So, I think if he was mixing it up for a friend, maybe he was mixing it up for a friend that was using an RTA or a sub-ohm tank, where that extreme sugariness, and I like sweet stuff, the extreme sugariness won't be so prominent. So yeah, just keep that in mind. If you're going to be mixing this up for RDA, maybe just, drop the sweetener a little bit, or drop the fruity flakes maybe by 1%. Okay. There's a slight harshness to it, when I mix this recipe up at the beginning. So, I mean, this is pretty much ready at 2 days, as per what the recipe is saying for steep days. But, at day 2, I got a bit of harshness in it, but, it does mellow out, later on. So at about day 4, day 5. Okay, so people that are extremely sensitive, I think it's the fruity flakes at 4% that could be causing a slight bit of harshness. So again, if you drop that to about 3%, that might help it out a bit. This recipe, though, is not about the milk. It's definitely not about that crunch, that cereal crunch. It's more about just a little bit of cereal flavor with that lemony flakiness and sugary notes to go with it, and that it does really, really well. Hey, man, this is just, like I said, 2 ingredients and an additive. It's pretty good for what it is. I mean, if you compare this to really, really complex recipes, it might not have all those layers and all those things, but to whack something quickly together, man, you need to give this a go. Okay, I would rate this recipe about a 4 out of 5 because it nails the profile so well. It's just 3 ingredients, actually 2, just with 1 additive. And I will definitely be mixing this up again. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that enjoy this. Locally, if you like, the commercial juice Zewb, I'm sure if you take this recipe and you literally just put in, cap sugar cookie and a little bit of Inawera biscuit just to form biscuit, you're going to be very close to Zewb, which is what I get from this. But yeah, give this a go. Then the other recipe that I mixed up was OG strawberry cake. Okay, so the description goes, this is a very simple recipe that's great for the beginner mixer looking for an all-day vape. I recommend this at 70-30 and steep for 1 week. This was one of my first recipes I've ever created. I know the strawberry recipe has been done over and over again, but this one has a spot on classic flavor without the icing. All right, so we kind of talking here about a cake base, a good strawberry cake base. So I'll go in on that. 10% of MTS Vape Wizard is essentially 1 drop per 15 milliliters. This is a simple recipe, great for beginners. I know you will enjoy it. Please rate it and comment thanks. Okay, so what's in this recipe? We've got 2% Inawera biscuit, 5% yellow cake, Flavor West, 0.1% FA MTS Vape Wizard, and 8% strawberry ripe. Okay, so I mean, this is 4 ingredients, right? So 3 ingredients with 1 additive. Again, a very, very simple recipe to bang together. 4 ingredients, and I mean, yellow cake, strawberry ripe, and Inawera biscuits. Those are staples, so you should have those in your collection. And the experience I get with this here. Excuse me, just one thing. So on the recipe itself, you'll see that it says steep days is 0, but in his description, he talks about a week, so 7 days. So from my personal experience, Inawera biscuit needs about 2 weeks. Luckily I've got a heated stirrer, so I spun it for 4 days, and I could get a good sense of where this would end up. But if you don't have a magnetic stirrer, I probably recommend steeping this for 2 weeks, just because Inawera's off notes kind of fall away after week 2. Okay. The biscuit is quite prominent as well. So, I love Flavor West yellow cake. I love that. But the problem here is, Inawera biscuit is at 2%. So generally, or of late, people are using it, at about 1% or even less, just as a tiny biscuit note in the recipe. But at 2%, it's quite prominent. So what I'm getting from this recipe is more like a soft cookie, because of so you've got the yellow cake plus you've got the biscuit together, and those two as a combination gives you like a soft cookie, and with the strawberry ripe in there, that will pull back after 2 weeks. So you get like not a very forward strawberry, but a strawberry that blends really well in the mix. I think this was done on purpose though, because you know, you can't have if you're talking about a strawberry cake, necessarily a yellow cake with strawberry. I guess you can have a yellow cake with strawberries or fresh strawberries sitting at the top of the cake, but you know, I think the intention here was to have, if you look at the picture of it, you'll certainly find that, you know, it's like a red cake. You know, the base of the cake is kind of reddish in color, you know, so it's blended as part of the cake. Now, MTS, what is that for people who don't know? So that is, that's mellow, smooth, and what is it? Mellow, smooth, and I forgot the third thing now.
Thick.
Thick, yes. So again, you know, this was added in there to slice off those top notes and to smoothen out and blend the mix, right? And make it smooth as one thing. So, you know, a brilliant way of using it, you know, in this mix as an example. I would say this is a good, you know, if you just drop the biscuit with 1%, this is going to be a brilliant base to work with. So 1% Inawera biscuit, 5% yellow cake, and then, you know, add MTS at 1 drop per 15 mils of juice, right? That's a banger cake base. Now, he's used strawberry in here, of course. Okay, so because it was not so close to a spongy strawberry cake as what the picture was kind of describing this would be for me, and more like a soft cookie, still delicious though, I'm only going to rate this recipe a 3 out of 5. I'm not sure, I can't remember if I rated Serially Easy Pebbles, but that recipe was a 4 out of 5. So OG strawberry cake, I'm going to rate this a 3 out of 5 because what the description of it was in the picture opposed to what my experience was slightly different, but definitely, you know, learned something out of this here and found a cool cake base. So yeah, that's pretty much what I mixed up. Deetz, you also mixed up Serially Easy Pebbles, right?
Yep, and I'm going to start with that one too. Like you said, it's 2% creamy milky undertone, 4% fruity flakes, and 1% sweetener. I think it's a really good I would also stick with 2 ingredient recipe. It's a 2 concentrate recipe that gives you a very, very good recipe. I feel for what it is, for the fact that it consists of two ingredients. I would agree with you on all the notes that you mentioned, definitely. And the sweetener, I would also pull back a little bit for my own personal taste. But with that said, for the people who love the sweet stuff, this sweetener at this level might be exactly what you're looking for. If you like that, I would also almost say if you eat a lot of sugar with your cereal and you drink that last bit of milk, that very sweet milk, this reminds me a lot about that. So other than that, my notes are pretty much on par with what you had to say. And then I would definitely also, for the South African guys looking for that Zewb feeling, this is definitely very close to it. Just add a little bit of biscuit like you also mentioned there. So that's pretty much my notes for the Serially Easy Pebbles. And I also mixed.
So what would you rate this one out of 5? I mean,
yeah, well, I personally didn't catch on to the whole cereal craze back when it was there. I was still looking for more vibrant fruits and stuff. But for a cereal and for what it is, I would also rate it 4 out of 5 because there is a little bit of stuff you can add to it. I've had 2 or 3 other tasted and tested a few other recipes, but as I said, not much. Maybe in total about 3 or 4 cereals, and the others were way more complex, building onto the layers that you have. But for what it is, a 2 ingredient recipe, it's a really bang on cereal. It's good. I like it. So I would say 4.5 out of 5.
yeah, it's
based
pretty
on
good.
my very limited experience on cereal. Yeah, I would only rate it 4 because it's lacking layers.
Mm.
So that's all. But you can't expect that with 2 ingredients only. So it's a really good recipe. And then for the PULSAR clone, I really thought this was a very interesting recipe. My initial thoughts when I read this was that it would be a lot lime, very much like the 3-2-1 ocean water lime profile, which was a lot. That is still for me a very good recipe, but I've noticed it can become a little bit much at some time if you chain vape that all the time. So I figured this is going to be the same story. A lot of lemon up front and only lemon. Oh, sorry, lime, not lemon. But it is really not. So I would say I'm very happy with this recipe, and the fact that the lime is not overpowering. I expected the lime and the sweetener to be very overpowering, because the concentrates totals are like this: 3.5% lemon lime, 0% lemon Sicily, 0.5% lime Tahiti cold pressed, 0.5% meringue, 1.25% peach juicy, 1% sour, and 1% super sweet. So just the lemon and the sweetener got me a little bit wondering how it'll turn out. But the lemon was definitely not the lemon lime was definitely not overpowering. The sweetener on the other hand, if I would remix this again, I would drop the sweetener down a little bit. But that's just personal preference. I normally don't mix above 0.25%, but the sweetener in this recipe as it is really, really great. I like it. I would say people loving that commercial. This is a very, for us locals here in South Africa, I would say this is a very commercial imported feel. Not in terms of sweetener like you would joke around on the forum about a lot of commercial juices, but it is a really good quality taste to it. It is probably because it is a clone, but it is a good clone. It is deliciously sweet and tart lime that sits in the full, that sits on the inhale. It sits nice and full with an awesome candy on the exhale that makes you, like, as soon as you're blowing it out, you want to take the next puff already. It's a very interesting, it's a very delicious recipe. I just keep on vaping it. I'll put it down and I'll vape it again. So I was very happy with this one. Yeah, kudos to Krucial. I definitely have to say this is one of my favorite recipes from you. I would definitely mix this again, and I would also try and mix in, as per his notes in the description, he also mentions that he's not very fond of menthol and stuff like that, but he would work in menthol in here and also try some Inuera raspberry. So I will definitely be remixing this with the Inuera raspberry, and I will probably try a variation with some WS, some coolant also. It is a really awesome recipe. Guys, mix this one up.
All right. I mixed up two of Crucials. It's a mixer I know very, very well. I usually have at least one of his juices in my rotation. I make his butter almond custard, his southern butter pecan gelato, and then also his RIP Harambe are three of my favorite juices. At least one of them is in my rotation constantly. So I thought I'd try something different from him, something maybe a little bit newer. So the first one I mixed up was Sweet Box Bro, which he describes as a butterscotch ice cream sandwich. Now, Crucial's two fortes are his bakeries and his desserts. Those are generally the profiles that he does best and that he does most of. So a butterscotch ice cream sandwich was right in my wheelhouse and right in his wheelhouse as well. The first thing that intrigued me about this recipe was the percentages. 6 ingredients. The butterscotch is added with 3.75% FW butterscotch ripple, which is pretty standard. The cream portion comes from 1.5% Flavor West Bavarian cream, 1.5% cream fresh, and 0.5% FA Vienna, which again is a fairly standard ice cream or butterscotch cream type of combination. Then he adds 1% Flavor West hazelnut, which is again fairly standard. But then the ingredient that really stuck out for me was 3.5% of Jungle Flavors biscuit. Now, This is an ingredient which is usually used on average at around 1.25%, I think is the average on all the flavors. So to see it up at 3.5 was quite intriguing. And that was one of the reasons I mixed it up. I get what he's going for here. He says the butterscotch ice cream sandwiched between the combo of JF biscuit and FW hazelnut brings the cookie. And I can see what he's doing here. Very often bakeries like Cap Sugar Cookie, FA Cookie, Unaware biscuit are just used to thicken up a cream, a milkshake, some sort of dessert or beverage, just to add a little bit of body to that milky ice cream base. And they don't really come across that clearly as a bakery or as a biscuit. So here he's obviously going for an actual biscuit texture, not just a thickener, hence the higher percentage of JF biscuit. To start off with the butterscotch ice cream, the ripple is fine on its own. Butterscotch ripple is probably the most complete butterscotch flavor that I've tasted. Very often mixers who do a butterscotch will mix two together, like they'll mix FA and one of the FWs or two of the FWs. For me, the butterscotch ripple on its own, with the creaminess of the Bav, the cream fresh and the Vienna, works perfectly. That registers as a really nice, decadent, rich, creamy, sweet butterscotch ice cream. The problem for me comes with this biscuit. Much like Unaware biscuit, the JF tends to get a little bit funky for me once you go over about 1.5%. Now this is up at 3.5. So definitely the biscuit does come through, but there is a somewhat astringent note in JF biscuit that is coming through quite strongly in the vape. Again, I get where he's coming from because the biscuit does register very prominently in the mix. It's right up there with the butterscotch ice cream. But for me, it's a little bit high. I think 3.5 was too high. I'd be inclined to drop this to about 2.5 or 2. It's going to lose some of that biscuit forward, that strong, prominent bakery presence that it has. But I would rather that than the very close to off note that I'm getting from the JF biscuit at 3.5. It's too prominent in the mix. It's coming across too strongly for me, and it's detracting from that butterscotch ripple ice cream. Dropping the biscuit would probably drop it back into more of a butterscotch ice cream, just thickened up with biscuit type of profile. But I think I would prefer that to this very strong biscuit forward mix that he's come with. It's still it's a very tasty mix. The butterscotch and the creams work together very nicely. The hazelnut blends in very well there. Just that biscuit stands out for me like a bit of a sore thumb. It's just not quite hanging together with the rest of the mix the way that I would prefer it to. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in this recipe. That butterscotch is very, very good, but as I say, I would probably pull that biscuit back a tad. JF biscuit, it's certainly better than the new Unaware biscuit, but it's not the sort of flavor that I would push up to 3.5%. For his second recipe, I went for his pistachio pound cake, which again, quite an interesting one. And again, because there's an ingredient that kind of sticks out as being quite high. This is a complex recipe. It's 8 ingredients. Total flavoring percentage is 16%, which is, again, it's also quite high for Crucial. It's 0.5% acetyl pyrazine, 1% each of Flavor Art, marshmallow, marzipan, and meringue, 3.5% of TFA pistachio, complemented with 1% of FA pistachio. The FA is a lot drier, it's a lot nuttier, it's less creamy and less artificial than the TFA, but the two of them work quite well together to make quite a realistic, not quite dry, not quite creamy pistachio blend. And then the flavor that kind of sticks out a bit is the Flavor West yellow cake at 6%, which again is maybe a little bit high. I think 3 to 4% is usually more the norm for that. This, however, works well for me. The yellow cake at 6% doesn't deliver an off note. His notes are that he added the marshmallow, marzipan, and meringue to turn the yellow cake into a pound cake, and it works really well in that sense. It's a fairly dry cake, as pound cake tends to be. Pound cake is an uniced cake, so it's just basically a dry baked cake base, and this works well in that. What he's relying on is for the TFA, the creaminess of the TFA pistachio to cut through. Again, the FA pistachio, which is a little bit drier, a little bit more realistic and nutty, kind of pulls that TFA back. But this is a recipe that is, it's quite daring in a way. Usually when I'd go for a cake, I'd aim for some kind of icing. He's got a little bit of icing in here, and that he adds 2% cap vanilla cupcake to the mixture, which does add a little bit of an icing note. But he's relying mainly on that TFA pistachio, the creaminess of that TFA pistachio, to just pull it up out of that very dry cake base that he's getting with the yellow cake, the AP, and the marshmallow marzipan meringue. It works very well for me. The pistachio top note is balanced very nicely with the pound cake base. Pistachio is a strange flavor for me. It's a little bit like pear in that I often prefer it just as an accent, just to round out an almond, or to just add a little bit of creamy nuttiness where you don't want a totally in-your-face pistachio flavor. Often I've found where pistachio is a top note, it comes across in a way that I don't really like it that much. It comes across as too rich, too nutty, too creamy, and it kind of throws mixes off a little bit for me. So I do prefer it, like pear, I prefer it as an accent rather than a top note. But in this mix, it actually works well, and I think there again, the FA pistachio is helping the TFA out. He calls it pistachio chunks. This recipe is a creamy pistachio pound cake with raw, grainy pistachios garnished on top, and that's what the FA does. It combines with the TFA to give you that feeling of sort of nut segments or nut crumbles, and that works quite well. It's just moist enough that it doesn't register as too dry, but it's very, very close to the edge. So I think maybe bringing that cap vanilla upcake, the vanilla cupcake up a little bit might help. Maybe adding something else, I don't know, cream cheese icing or something to the mix might just moisten it up a little bit. But it's a well-balanced mix. I kind of agree with Skittles' review of it. He gave it 4 stars, and he said, not my style of vape, but the version submitted to the DIY or Die contest rang true on the profile. If this flavor is something you would enjoy, this will be a 5-star recipe. And I would pretty much go with that. If you want a pistachio pound cake, this is close to the profile. Probably not, even though I'm a bakery nut, it's probably not 100% my thing just because of that pistachio top note. But if you do like a pistachio top note and you're into bakeries, this is a well-balanced mix. It's a very pleasant vape, but not something that I would mix all the time. That pistachio just doesn't quite work as a top note. For me, as I said, I'd like this mix to be a little bit more moist somehow, just something in there just to moisten that base up a little bit more. I don't think the TFA pistachio does enough on its own to do that, but generally very solid and well balanced and true to profile mix.
Cool. Thanks, Richard. So I'm looking here at Krucial's page, and I've just gone to all his recipes on all the flavors, and some of his most popular recipe is butter almond custard. Okay, then he's got a PULSAR clone, and then he's got, so I'm just talking about the top three: Crucial, Strawberry, Margarita. And let's talk about the third one as well: Crucial, Sour Patch Bastard. So go and check those recipes out. Those are his most popular mixes, and there's already some reviews out on those. But all in all, I think I think we found a couple of bangers, and well done to Crucial. So yeah, keep on mixing and keep on creating these recipes so we can talk about them. But yes, thank you very much. That kind of brings us to the end of the show, guys. So if anybody is wondering why I've got these lights up in the background, is because I upped my nicotine salts and I've lost my shit entirely. But yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end of the show. And so you guys, anything else from your side?
Thanks, Crucial, for a awesome clone. This PULSAR is epic. I love it. Definitely permanent rotation.
Another good one is his Sea Goat, the custard greatest of all time. That's a really good custard mix. If you're into custards, give that a spin.
Cool. Cheers, guys.